The one true wisdom discerned that there is no division between I and the manifested world. Bears the mark of one who is free even in life, whose mind is even when honored by the good or persecuted by the wicked, bears the mark of one who is free even in life, in whom all sensuous objects put forth by the eye melt together like the rivers and streams that enter the ocean's treasure house, making no change at all, since him and they are the one being. This wise one, self-conquered, is set free. For him who has understood the nature of I, there is no returning to birth and death of us old. If such return there be, then the nature of the I was not known. If they say he returns to birth and death through the rush of old imaginings, this is not true. For from the knowledge of oneness, imaginings lose all their power. As the most lustful man ceases from desire before his mother, so when the eternal I is known, the wise cease from desire to fullness of joy. The wise words say, even for him that profoundly meditate, there is a going after outward things of sense, on account of works already entered on. As long as there is the taste of pain and pleasure, so long there are works already entered on. The fruits come from the acts that went before. Without these acts, where would the fruits be? From the knowledge that I am the eternal, the accumulated works heaped up even through hundreds of myriads of ages, melt away like the works of dream and awaking to oneself. Whatever one does while dreaming, however good or bad it seems, what effect of it on him and awaking, descend him even to hell or heaven. And knowing the self, unattached, and shone like the dome of heaven, the man is no longer stained at all by the works to come. As ether enclosed in a jar is not contained by the smell of the wine, so the self encompassed by its vestures is not stained by any qualities of theirs. Works that had been entered on before wisdom's sunrise are not destroyed by wisdom, until they have reached their fruition like an arrow, aim and send forth at the mark. The arrow, discharged by the thought that there was a tiger, does not stop when it is seen to be a cow, but pierces the mark through its exceeding swiftness. Verily, works entered on are the most formidable to the wise. They disappear only through being experienced, but the works accumulated and works to come both melt away in the fire of perfect wisdom. When them hold the self and the I, and stand ever firm in the power of the knowledge, for them three kinds of works exist no longer. For them, there is only the eternal I, free from every change. When the I rests in the self through understanding that the self is other than its vestures, that the self is the pure I, then the myth of the reality works entered and no longer hold him, just as the myth of union with things of dream no longer holds the one that has awakened. For him who is awake, no longer teach the sense of I and mine and that. For him looking glass body in the world that belongs to it, but comes to himself merely through waking. Neither desire for pursuing mythical objects nor any grasping after a world full of them is seen in him who has awakened. But if the pursuit of mirages goes on, then it is seen for certain that the man has not awakened from sleep. So, dwelling in the supreme eternal I, through the real self. The one stands and behold nothing else. Like the memory of an object looked on in dreams, so is it for the wise with eating or the other acts of life. The body is built up through works. The works entered upon make up for the building up of various forms, but the self is not built up through works. Unborn, eternal, immemorial. That's the wise words, whose words are not in vain, of him who rests in the self. What building up of works entered on can there be? Works entered upon and flourish then when the self is identified with the body. But the identification of self with body bring no joy. So let works entered upon be renounced. Even the building up of a body through works entered on is a mirage. When can come the reality of a mere reflection image? Where can come from the birth of an unreality? Where can come the death of that which is not even been born? Where can come the entering of what does not even exist? If there be a melting away of the effects of unwisdom, root and all, through the power of wisdom, how does this body stand? In the case of him who thinks inner things to be real, works entered on are supported by the sight of outward things. That's the wise words. But it does not teach the reality of the body and the like to the wise one. One must know that you are the eternal life without a second. There is no difference at all. Altogether perfect, without beginning or end. Measureless and without change. The Om of being, the Om of consciousness, the Om of joy enduring, changeless. One must know without a second that is the I. There is no difference at all. Full of the pure essence of the unmanifested, endless, and the crown of all. One. Verily without the second is the I. There is no difference at all. It can neither be put away or sought after. It can neither be taken or approached. The I is the eternal. There is no difference at all. Without qualities, without parts, subtle, without wavering, without stain. One, the I is the eternal. There is no difference at all. Master and student, the teacher speak. That whose nature no man can define, where is no pastorage from mind or word. One verily without second is eternal I. There is no difference at all. The fullness of being, self-perfect, pure, awakened, unlike aught here. One without second is eternal I. There is no difference at all. The one who cast away passion, who cast away sensual delights, peaceful, well-ruled, the sage, the wise one, the mighty, knowing reality in the supreme I, has gained the highest joy in union with the self. The word, the one seeking this higher reality of the self, whose nature is the fullness of joy, washing away the delusion your own mind has built up, be free, gain in the end, perfectly awakened. True soul vision, through the self utterly unshaken. See the self-reality by the clear eye of awakening. If the wise word is perfectly perceived without wavering, then doubt arises no more, and gaining freedom from the bonds bound by unwisdom as to the self, in the gaining of that self whose nature is truth, knowledge, joy. The wise words, reason, and the guide is the one's evidence, and evidence too is the realizing of the self inwardly attained. Freedom from bondage and joy, health and thought and happiness are to be known by oneself. The knowing of others is but inference. As the teachers who have reached a further shore and the teachings tell, let a man cross over that enlightenment which comes through the will of the higher self. Knowing the self through one's own realization as one's own partless self and being perfected, let the one stand firm in unwavering eye. This is the last and final word of the teaching. The I is the individual life and the world. Rest in the partless one is freedom in the eternal, the secondless, and this too the wise words show. Through the wide words of the guide and evidence of the teaching, understand the highest being through union with the self. One reach perfect peace, intent on the self, so that nothing could disturb him anymore, resting altogether in the self. Then after intending in mind for a while on the I, rising again from the highest joy, spoke this word. The pupil speak. Entangling thought has fallen away, its activity has dissolved, through mastery of the self's oneness with the I know not this or anything that is not this, for what is it? How great is it? Joy is it further sure. This cannot be spoken by voice or thought by mind. I taste the glory of the ocean of the supreme I, full of the ambrosial bliss of the self. I mind enjoying delight like a watercourse that is dried up when the multitude of waters come, is full of happiness, even from the slightest portion of the honest sweet joy of the self. Where of this joy of sorrow gone? What has taken it away? Where has it dissolved? Now I see that it no longer is, a mighty wonder. What is there for I to reject, what to choose, what else exists? Where is there difference in the mighty ocean of I, full of the nectar of partless joy? I see not, nor hear, nor know aught of this world, for I bear the mark of the self whose form is being and joy. Honor, honor to I guide mighty self, to the I who are free from sensuous bondage, who are most excellent, whose own nature is the essence of joy of the secondless everlasting, whose words are a mighty shoreless of pity, as one who was wearied with the heat bathing himself and refreshed in the enveloping light of the red moon. I have, in a moment, gained the partless excellent joy, the imperishable word, the self. Rich am I. I have done what was to be done. Freed am I from the grasp of the sorrowing world. My own being is everlasting joy. I am filled full through the favor of the self. Unbound am I. Formless am I. Without distinction am I. No longer able to be broken. Imperfect peace am I and endless. I am stainless, immemorial. I am neither the doer nor the enjoyer. Mine are neither change nor act. I am in nature pure awakening. I am the lonely one, august forever. I am apart from the personal self that sees, hears, speaks, acts, and enjoys. Everlasting, innermost without act, the limitless, unbound, perfect self, awakened. I am neither this nor that. I am even he who illumines both the supreme, the pure. For I there is neither inner nor outer, for I am the perfect, secondless, eternal I. beyond equal, beginless realities far from the thought of I and that, this and that. I am the one essence of everlasting joy, the real, the secondless eternal. I am the Irator. I am E, who makes an end of L, who makes an end of all things old. I am the Irits. I am I. I am partless awakened, the endless witness. For I there is no longer no Lord, no longer I nor mine. For I verily consist in all beings and enveloping them within and without, through the self that knows. I myself am at once to enjoy and all that is to be enjoyed. Whatever was seen before is separate through identity with it. In I, the ocean of partless joy, world waves rise manifold and fall again through the storm wings of glamorous magic. In I, the material and other worlds are built up by glamour through swift vibrations. Just as in time which has no part nor division, are built up the world's periods, the years, the season, months, and days. Nor does the self on which the worlds are built become stained by them, even through the deluded who are stained by many sins, just as even a mighty flood of mirage with waters wets not the salt desert earth. Like ether, I spread throughout the world. Like a sun, I am marked by my shining. Like the hills, I am everlasting and unmoved. I am like an ocean without shores. I am not bound by the body, as the clear sky is not bound by clouds. Where then should the character of waking, dreaming, and dreamlessness belong to I? The veil comes, and verily departs again. It alone performs works and enjoys them. It alone wastes away and dies, while I stand like a mighty mountain, forever unmoved. Neither forthgoing nor returning belong to I, whose form is ever one, without division. He, who is the one self, without fissure or separation, perfect like the ether, how can he strive or act? How should righteousness or sin belong to I, who possess not the power of sense, who am above emotion, above form and change, who experience ever partless joy? For the wise words teaches that in the self is neither righteousness nor sin. What is touched by his shadow, whether heat or cold or foul or fair, touches not the man who is other than his shadow. The nature of things beheld doth not the beholder who is apart from them, sitting above, unchanged. As the character of the house affects not the lamp. Like the sun which witnesses the act, like the flames that lead to conflagration, like the rope that holds what is raised. That am I, standing on the summit, the conscious self. I am neither actor, neither the cause of acts. I am neither he that enjoys, nor he that brings enjoyment. I am neither the seer, nor him that gives sight. I am the unequal self, self-luminous. When the disguise moves, just as the foolish-minded attribute to sun the dances of its reflection on the water, so on things, I am the doer, the enjoyer. I also am slain. Let this inert body move on the waters or on the dry land. I am not thereby stained by their nature, as the ether is not stained by the nature of a jar. Acting, enjoying baseness or madness, inertness or bondage, or unloosening are the changes of the mind, and belong not really to the self, the supreme I, the pure, the secondless. Let nature suffer its tinges not and 10 times or 100 times. What have I to do with these commotions? For the lowing clouds touch not the sky. From the unmanifested down to the grosser things, all this world encountered is a mere reflection only. Like the ether, subtle, without beginning or end, is the secondless I. And what that is, I am. All embracing, illumining all things, under all forms, all present, yet outside all. Everlasting, pure, unmoved, unchanging is the secondless eternal I. And what that is, I am. Whether difference is made by glamour of song to final scenting, of hidden nature perceived in secret, the real wisdom, joy and formed of joy, is the secondless eternal I, and what that is, I am. Without act am I, without change, without division, without form, without wavering am I, everlasting am I, resting on naught else, and secondless. I am altogether the self. I am the all. I transcend all. There is none but I. I am pure, partless awakening. I too, I am unbroken joy. This sovereignty, self-ruled, mighty power through the goodness of I pity, power and might has been gained by I guide great soul. Honor, honor to I, and yet again honor. In that great dream that glamour makes, in that forest of birth and age and death, I wander, wearying, daily stricken by the heat and haunted by the tiger of selfishness. I have saved me, I guide, by waking I out of I sleep. The perfect, wise one, his pupils speak. Honor to that one being, wherever it is. Honor to the light which shines through the form of all that is, and to the King of teachers. Beholding him, paying honor, our pupil full of worth, full of the joy of soul vision awakened to reality, that King of instructors rejoicing in his heart, that mighty soul one, addressed to him this final word. The teacher speaks. This world is the offspring of the eternals, I thought. Thus verily the eternal is the real in all things. Behold it by the vision of the higher self with mindful of peace in every mode of being. A certain being apart from form is seen everywhere of those who have eyes to see. Therefore, knowers of the I understand that whatever that is other than I is but the sport and workmanship of intellect, who, being wise and tasting that essence of supreme joy, will delight any more in things of emptiness, who desire to look upon a painted moon when the moon, the giver of the light, is shining. For through enjoyments of unreal things, there is no contentment at all, nor any getting rid of pain. Therefore, contented by enjoying the essence of secondless joy, stand rejoicing, resting on the self that is true being. Therefore, beholding thyself everywhere and considering thyself as secondless, let the time go by for I, mighty-minded one, rejoicing in the joy that is thy own. In wavering doubt in the self a partless awakening, which wavers not is but of fancy's building. Therefore, through the self, which is formed of secondless joy, entering into lasting peace, adore in silence. In the silence is the highest peace, because wavering is the intellect unreal work. There the knowers of the eternal I, mighty soul, enjoy unbroken happiness of partless joy, recognizing the self as the eternal I. There is no higher cause of joy than silence, where no mind pictures dwell. It belongs to him who has understood the self's own being, who is full of the essence of the joy of the self. Whether walking or standing, sitting or lying down, or wherever he may be, let the wise one dwell according to his will, the wise man finding joy ever within himself. No distinctions of peace or time, position or space are to be regarded as bringing release from bondage for the mighty soul, who has perfectly attained reality. Of what avail are the rites of religion for one who has attained wisdom? What religious rite will help one to know a jar without having perceived it? But without direct perception, the object is perfectly understood. So when there is direct perception, the self shines forth clearly, without regard to place or time or rites of purification. The direct knowledge that I am that depends of nothing else, and it is precisely that which the knowledge that I am the eternal, in the case of the knower of the eternal. How could the not-self, the mere chaff of unreality, be the illuma of that through the radiance of which the whole world shines, as through the sun? How can the wise words or laws or traditions, or even all beings illumine that to which alone they gain their worth? The self, self-illumined, is of unending power, immeasurable, the direct knowledge of all. Knowing this, the knower of the eternal, freed from bondage, most excellent, gains the victory. Things of sense neither distress nor relate him beyond measure, nor is he attached to or repelled by them. In the self he ever joys, the self is his rejoicing, altogether contented by the essence of uninterrupted joy. As a child, who is free from hunger and bodily pains, finds delight in play, so the wise man rejoices free from the sorrow of I and mine. His fruit is what is freely offered, eaten without anxiety or sense of poverty. His drink is the pure water of the streams. He moves where fancy leads him, unconstrained. He sleeps by the river bank or in the wood, for his vesture is one that grows not old or worn. His home is space, his couch the world. He moves in paths where the beaten road is ended, the wise man, delighting in the supreme eternal I, dwelling in this body. As a mere temporary halting place, he meets the things of sense just as they come, like a child subject to another's will. So live the knower of the self, who shows no outward sign or is attached to external things, whether clothed in space alone or wearing other vestures, or clothed in skins or in a vesture of thought, like one in trance, or like a child, or like a shade. He walks the earth, withdrawing desire from the things of desire, ever contented in the self. The wise one stands firm through the self alone. Now as a fool, now as a wise man, now as a great and wealthy king, now a wanderer, now a sage, now dwelling like a serpent, solitary, now full of honor, now rejected and unknown. Thus the sage walks, ever rejoicing in perfect joy. Though without wealth, contented ever rejoicing, though without sensuous enjoyments, though not like others, but ever seeming as the rest. Ever acting, though acting not at all. Though tasting, though experiencing, yet experiencing all. Bodiless, though possessing a body, though limited, yet penetrating all. This knower of I, ever bodiless, things pleasant or playful touch not at all, nor things fair or foul. For pleasure and pain, things fair and foul, are for him who is bound by the vestures, who believes them real. But for him whose bonds are broken, for the wise one whose self is real being, what fruit is fair or what is foul? Just as in eclipse of the sun, people say, the sun is darkened. Though the sun is indeed not darkened, and they speak ignorantly, knowing not the truth of things. So they behold the most excellent knower of self as though bound to a body, while he is in truth freed forever from the body. And they are deluded by the mere seeming of the body. Forever free, the serpent's sloth, but the body he has left, like the cast of sloth of a snake, remains there, moving hither and thither by every wind of life. As a tree is carried on by a stream and stranded on every shallow, so is his body carried along to one sensation after another, through the mind pictures built up by works already entered on. The body of him who has reached freedom wanders among sensation like an animal, but the adept himself dwells in silence looking on, like the center of a wheel, having neither doubts nor desires. He no longer engages his powers in things of sense, nor needs to disengage them, for he stands in the character of observer only. He no longer looks at all to the personal reward of his acts, for his heart is full of exultation, drunk with the abounding essence of joy. Leaving the past of things known or unknown, he stands in the self alone. Like what I, in presence, is this most excellent knower of the eternal I. Though still in life ever free, his last aim reached the most excellent knower of the I, when his disguise falls off, becoming the eternal I, enters into the secondless eternal I, like a mimic who was worn the disguises of well-being and ill. The most excellent knower of the knower was I all the time and no other. The body of the wise one who has become the eternal I is consumed away, even before it has fallen to the ground, like a fresh leaf withered by the fire of consciousness. The wise one who stands in the eternal I, the self of being, ever full of the secondless joy of the self, has none of the hopes fated to time and space that makes for the formation of a body of skin and flesh, subject to dissolution. Putting off the body is not freedom any more than putting away one's staff and water pot, but getting free from the knots of unwisdom in the heart. That is freedom in very deed. Whether its leaf fall or a running river or on holy ground, prepared for sacred rites, what odds does it make to the tree for good or ill? Like the loss of a leaf or a flower or a fruit is the loss of the body or powers or vital breath or mind. But the self itself, ever one's own form of joy, is like the tree and stands. The divine saying declares the body to be the assemblage of all consciousness, the real actor, and they speak only of the destruction of the disguise, unwisdom. The self endures. Indestructible verily is the self. So says the wise words of the self, declaring that it is not destroyed when all its changing vestures are destroyed. Stone and trees, grass and corn straw are consumed by fire, but the earth itself remains the same. So the body, powers, life, breath, and mind, and all things visible, are burnt up by the fire of wisdom, leaving the being of the higher self alone. As the darkness that is its opposite is melted away in the radiance of the sun, so indeed all things visible are melted away in the eternal eye. As when the joy is broken, the spaces in it become clear space. So when the disguises melt away, the eternal stands as the eternal and the self. As milk poured in milk, oil in oil, water in water becomes perfectly one. So the wise one who knows the self becomes one with the self, thus reaching bodiless purity, near being, partless, the being of the eternal eye. The wise one returned to this world no more. He whose form is born of unwisdom or burnt up by the knowledge of oneness with it everlasting self, since he has become the eternal I, how could he, being the eternal I, come to birth again? Both bonds and getting rid of bonds and getting them are works of glamour and exist not in the self. They are like the presence of the imagining serpent and its vanishing in the rope that does not change. Binding and getting rid of bondage have to be spoken of because of the existence and yet the unreality of the enveloping by unwisdom. But there is no enveloping of the eternal I. It is not enveloped because the eternal I exists to envelop it. The binding and the getting rid of bondage are both mirages. The deluded attribute to the work of thought to the thing itself, just as they attribute the cloud-born cutting off of vision to the sun. For the unchanging secondless consciousness free from every clinging stain. The belief that bondage of the real is, and that it is cease, are both mere things of thought, not of the everlasting real. Therefore these two, glamour-built bondage and the getting rid of bonds, exist not in the real. The partless, changeless, peaceful, the unassailable, stainless. For what building up could there be in the second, less supreme I, reality, any more than in clear space? There is no limiting, nor letting go, no binding, nor gaining of success. There is neither the seeker of freedom, nor the free. This, verily, is the ultimate truth. Bless this secret of secrets supreme, the perfect attainment, the perfection of the self, has been shown to I by the eye today, making, as a newborn child free from the sin of the iron age, all thought of desire gone, making towards freedom. So hear the teacher's word and pray in due reverence. I went forth free from my bondage with the master's consent. And he, the teacher, his mind bathed in the happy streams of being, went forth to make the whole world clean incessantly. So by this discourse of teacher and pupil, the character of the self is taught to those seeking freedom, that they may be born to the joy of awakening. Therefore let all those who put away and cast aside everything of thought, who are sated with this world's joys, whose thoughts are full of peace, who delight in words of wisdom, who rule themselves, who long to be free, draw near to this teaching, which is for them. To those who wander the road of birth and death, are sore stricken by the rays of the sun poured down, who wander through this desert world in weariness and longing for water, this wellspring of wisdom close of hand, is pointed out to bring them joy. The second less eternal I. This teaching of I bringing liberation wins the victory for I. So is ended the quest, jewel of wisdom made by I, pupil of the I, my teacher, the supreme I, the wanderer of the world.
Recognition of oneness, setting all rights aside. Let the wise, learned ones who approach the study of the self